Hello, everyone. This is Libor from the ecosystem team, and this is my Create UX update for 13.0. So in this milestone, I'm really going to be focusing on just continuing the work that we've been working through over the past, three or so milestones, which is called this mass integration at a group level, at the group level and instance level, and this is the epic. For this, I'm not going to go too much into detail about what this work's about. I did a UX showcase on this maybe a week or two ago, so I recommend checking that out to learn more about this. But at a high level, what this functionality does is it makes it easier for admins of the GitLab instance and at the group level to manage the settings of all their projects. So for example, right now we have this functionality at the instance level called service templates. So that allows you, or that allows an admin to set up a template. So for example, they could go to Jira here, set their own like URL and hit save. So now every project that's created on this instance will automatically have a Jira integration set up, and they will have this URL set up. So this has some limitations. So for example, if that project owner now decides to override this URL with something else and hit save, me as the admin has no idea that that's been overridden. And two, there's no way for me to just hit save again and have that have those changes propagate down to all the projects. So it really works it just like as a one-way flow right now, and it really works as a template. There's also no way for me to kind of retroactively change any projects that might have already had different settings created. So that's what this new functionality will bring is the ability to dynamically kind of update this. Like I mentioned, let's just say foo.com again, and if I hit save, all my projects, whether they're all new and old projects, will all have this value set. And we're also introducing a way for the admin to see what projects are actually overriding these settings, because for example, you may actually want some projects to not use these settings. So that's kind of the summary of what's happening in this epic. So the design work for this has been wrapped up in 12.10. That's all that can all be found in this issue called end-to-end mockup for mass integrations. So if you want to learn more, there's also a kind of video walkthrough that walks through some of these prototypes and user stories. But back to the work that's going to be happening in 13.0, I have an issue here that's basically all about helping admins that are currently using these service templates transition or migrate over to the new way of doing the integrations. So that's one issue that's going to be happening in 13.0. I also have this other ongoing issue that I've been working through with Justin here, which is really focused on Jira and this specific field called the Jira Transition ID, or making them easier to configure. So this issue took way longer than I initially expected, just because first of all, I had to learn what this functionality even was for. And I know Justin had to do a lot of research on the back end to see how this is set up and just understand, how it all works. Because for example, we have this integration should support Jira Cloud and Jira Server, and in order to kind of make these IDs easier to set up, we wanted to kind of automatically pull them from your Jira instance. But again, there's some inconsistencies with how their APIs are set up. So this is still a work in progress. We've done a lot of work already on this issue, so I'm really hoping that we're going to be able to close this in 13.0. just some background on even what this even means. I don't know if if everyone on the team knows, but I'm going to just go back here and pretend that, let's say this is at the project level, and let's say I go to my Jira integration at the project level. You could see here, this is this field that says just transition IDs. So this is, I think, for even existing users of Jira, I think it's hard to understand what this even is. So to give you all a quick summary of what a transition ID is, or what this integration does, is imagine that you are using Jira for all your project management, and you're using the Kanban board functionality, and you have some issues that are in backlog, some are in development, and some are maybe like already in the closed column. So what you could do with this with our GitLab Jira integration is you could say when you're in a merge request or in a commit, you could mention that Jira ID, and you could use some keywords, for example, like say closes and then the Jira ID. And once you hit save, or you do that commit or merge request, what will happen is that will change the status of that Jira issue to transition over to the last column, or the last workflow that's in your Jira project. So what this field actually is asking for is it's asking for the ID of that last state in your workflow, in your Jira workflow. So for example, you'd want to be looking for the ID that's for like the closed board, for example. So yeah, so there's a lot of improvement that we could do here, just to make just with like better help text and microcopy, just to first of all explain what this functionality even does, but also just making it easier for you to get that ID. So just for me to understand how to get this ID, I'm just gonna go through that process really quickly. So what I had to do was, first I had to go through this, go through the documentation. Thankfully there was like I read through this really quickly, but thankfully there's a pretty good video here on how to go about doing that. So I ended up then going through watching this video, and here are the Jira columns, the Jira Kanban board, like I mentioned. So I forgot where it was, somewhere in the video. This kind of just describes the functionality. But in order to get that ID, I'm not going to find
Jenkins
it. I'm not going to find it now. But anyways, in order to get that ID, I had to kind of obviously go through this documentation, and then find there's different links that you have to click through inside of your Jira project to get to somewhere where the Jira API is, and that actually lists out all of your lists out a JSON file of all those all your existing IDs for all your for your boards, or I'm sorry, for your columns. So once you have that ID, then you could go back here, and then you paste that ID in here. So for example, let's say your last column is 12, like your closed column in Jira. So you'd put your 12 in there and hit save. It's very unintuitive, and I could definitely do a better job of making that more user-friendly. So in this issue, we've kind of worked through this. Where's that issue again? Here. So ideally, there's like a kind of a low fidelity mock-up here where we're kind of going with this. So instead of asking the user to just enter an integer, we could ideally kind of surface these IDs with a more human readable label, and then just allow them to kind of pick and choose what's their last workflow ID, and hit save. Yeah, so going back to the board, so that's actually one issue I think I'm pretty excited to close. And then I'm also just excited to be working on the Figma pilot, and helping to either create or transfer some of these existing sketch components that we have into Figma and helping the design team start using Figma more, because they do have a lot of nicer features, and it makes the workflow a lot better. So I think that's it for all the issues that I have in 13.0, and then I have this last issue if I have time that I'll work through. Yeah, that's all I have. If you have any questions, feel free to make comments in the in the thread where I post this video too. All right, thanks everyone.